Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Red Mist podcast, where we are here today previewing UEFA Champions League match day number 1 for Liverpool. We're traveling to Ajax, we're traveling to the Johan Cruyff Arena, and we're going to take on the Dutch side Ajax Amsterdam. If you didn't know, they are the ones who play at Johan Cruyff Arena. But before I do before I do get into Ajax and the preview of the Champions League, I do have to address a few key things that have come out since the Merseyside derby, since the very controversial Merseyside derby, I might add. So the first things first, Virgil van Dijk, very, very sad for him. The news is that the club officially have said he's damaged his knee, but people in the know, journalists in the know have said it's a grade 3 ACL tear, which is not good. For a normal person, for a non-athlete, it takes at least 6 months to get walking again, more like 9 to 10 months before they can actually play football or, get into contact sports in general. For a person who is as athletically fit, as physically fit, and athletic as Virgil van Dijk, it should take about 6 months. There are people who've come out from it before. Zlatan, for example, has come out in 5 months and he's looked imperious. He had a brace in the Milan derby as well on Saturday. So, I mean, look, a lot of it depends on rehab and recovery and how well Virgil's body adapts. But the truth is, nobody comes back from an ACL a full 100%. There's always going to be a little bit lost when you rupture that ligament for the first time. So, unfortunate for him. Thoughts and prayers with the big man. Let's hope he recovers fast and recovers quickly and comes back and is the imperious self that he is. As a follow-up to that, the tackle that caused the issue and caused a lot of other issues, Jordan Pickford sliding in on Virgil van Dijk. Now, in my raw reactions, I said, I can understand him getting away with it, but like I said in that very same episode, in the previous episode, if you guys haven't listened to that, do listen to it. But like I said in the very same episode, referees or former referees who are now part of TV panels and stuff like that, experienced people, they are like, it's a red, VAR should have looked at it. At the time, we thought VAR didn't look at it because of the offside. And that's why the penalty wasn't given. That's why Pickford escaped any punishment. But it has since come out that Jordan Pickford is not going to get any retrospective punishment. Do remember that the FA can punish him, the Premier League can punish him retrospectively in case there's any offense that's caught, and vice versa. In case there's any offense that's unfairly punished by the on-field referee, they can reverse it. Like, for example, last year we had Son Heung-min, who broke Andre Gomez's ankles or his shin. And it was an unfortunate thing. He was red carded immediately and would have been suspended for the next game and maybe the couple of games after that. But the FA reversed it because they deemed it to be unintentional. And so Pickford comes in. He was off. Virgil van Dijk, first of all, his elbow is offside, which is ridiculous. A little bit. Let's say a shoulder. A little bit of the shoulder was offside. Fine. He's offside. Fair enough. And then Pickford just goes sliding in and is not given a red card. Now, I, for the life of me, cannot understand the logic behind this because the FA, and I'm reading this straight out of the BBC website, the FA determined that the incident was seen at the time, having consulted with the match officials, including VAR. So Jordan Pickford will not face any retrospective action over his challenge on Virgil van Dijk, which, to be completely honest, is very, very stupid because the excuse that they've given is that, and I remember reading, this is not a verbatim thing that I'm quoting, and I remember reading this morning, the excuse that they've given is that they were preoccupied with the offside. You're a referee. How are you preoccupied with one thing so much that you completely ignore the next incident, which literally took place 5 seconds after that? I'm sorry, that's just incompetence. That's not being preoccupied. That's incompetence. VAR was brought in so you could referee properly. Instead, what VAR is showing us is that these referees cannot referee properly. These referees are incompetent. They're unfit to referee what is supposedly the best league in the world. If you want to claim to be the best league in the world, with the best players in the world, with the best coaches in the world, You also have to have refereeing standards that match those levels. You can't have stupid referees like David Coote, and I'm not going to hold back today. That guy is stupid. That guy is the most incompetent referee I've ever seen take to a Premier League field. And he is, in fact, taking to the Premier League field tonight. He's actually refereeing the Leeds against Wolves game as I speak right now. So, if Leeds or Wolves lose this because of some ridiculous decision that he makes, don't be surprised, because that guy is incompetent. He can't referee an under fives game in the park, let alone a Premier League game. This guy is just unfit. He needs to be taken out. I don't know, suspend him, give him some time off. I don't know if he's got family troubles or whatever, but give him some time off. Let him get his shit together and then come back. But look, and the second thing that I don't understand is, fine, Virgil van Dijk is offside. So does that give me, now let's say in the Leeds game, let's say, Leeds are playing Wolves, Raul Jimenez gets through on goal, he's offside. Fine, fair enough. But as with the current rules, you are supposed to play on. Even if it is offside. Now, Raul Jimenez comes in. Meslier comes in. Meslier, or however you want to pronounce the Leeds goalkeeper's name. I call him Meslier. So, Meslier comes in. The offside is called. Meslier comes in, just absolutely 2 foots Raul Jimenez. You're telling me Meslier is not going to be sent off? You're telling me it's okay for Meslier to just 2 foot Raul Jimenez because, Jimenez was offside? That's what you're telling me? Because if that's the case, then there's going to be so many, quote unquote red card fouls, which are never going to be given cards, if that's the case. This is a little bit of a digression, but this reminds me of, 80s basketball. Now, I don't know if a lot of you are basketball fans, but in the 80s basketball arena, or the scenery, there was a team called the Bad Boys, or the Detroit Pistons. They were called the Bad Boys. And what they would do, and this is something that a lot of players who've played in that, that period have said. In basketball at the time, now they've changed the rules obviously, but at the time, only the first guy who hit you got a foul. The second, third guy, fourth guy who came and hit you after that, they never got fouls. So that's what they would do. So this is the football version of that. The offside is going to be given, in the same example that I took, the offside is going to be given against Raul Jimenez. But because Meslier is just coming in 2-footed after Jimenez has been offside, or because, Calvin Phillips decides he's going to take out Jimenez's leg, but he's going to do it after the offside, they're not going to get penalized. Which, to me, that makes no sense. That absolutely makes no sense. Because essentially, you're giving a license to any player who wants to do anything illegal after an offside flag or after a foul's been given. That just makes no sense. And that, first of all, those offsides, they weren't clear and obvious. And I'm not going to go on about this. But where was VAR when Sheffield United were denied a clear goal against Aston Villa last season? That, I cannot think of an error that's more clear and obvious than that. Manchester United can get a penalty after 90 minutes, after the game is done. But for some reason, Sheffield United cannot get a goal that's clearly inside the goal. I mean, a goal where the ball is clearly inside the goal. You guys know what I mean. The point is, VAR is stupid the way it's being used. And it is compounded by the fact that English referees are incompetent. English referees are absolutely incompetent. And I'm not going to keep harping on about this because that is not the main content of this episode. But I'm just so pissed off. And I know I am not the only team. Or Liverpool is not the only team who've been affected by this. This isn't bias. I'm not trying to claim any bias here. Like I said, Sheffield United, one of the examples. And I'm sure for all the flack that Man United take for, being favored and being, having penalties given and all of that, for all the flack that they take, I am absolutely sure there are instances where Man United have felt wrongly done by VAR. And I wouldn't be surprised. Every team out of the 20 has been wrongly done by VAR at some point. From Arsenal all the way down to, whatever the last team is, alphabetically. All 20 teams. And I've never seen a league have as many problems with VAR as England. And I watch it. The only other 2 leagues that I really watch are, in Europe at least, are Bundesliga and the Serie A. And both of them use VAR. And they've not had as many issues with VAR as England has had. And outside of England, the only other league I watch is the MLS. And they were, in fact, one of the first leagues to implement VAR, and they've not had issues with VAR. So, look, these guys just need to sort themselves out. English football, you need to sort yourselves out. Honestly, you really need to sort yourselves out. There's no excuse for what just happened in the Merseyside derby, and there's no excuse for the errors across games. It's not just the Merseyside derby. Across games, the Merseyside derby just compounded it because it's a derby. It's the most fiercest derby. I think it's the derby which has the record for the most number of cards in it. So that's why it's been compounded. But my point is, you need to sort yourselves out. Anyway, that's not why we're here. We're going to talk Ajax Amsterdam. It was a 10-minute rant. I didn't intend it to be that long. But you know what? What's done is done. Let's move on to Ajax. Right, moving on to a more optimistic topic. We're here to preview the game between Ajax Amsterdam and Liverpool, Champions League Match Day 1 at the Johan Cruyff Arena. I could not be more excited. European football, it's got a charm of its own. 8 p.m. kickoffs, obviously this year it's going to be a little different without fans, and it's going to feel a little weird. Anfield won't be the same for sure. I'm sure Johan Cruyff Arena won't be the same. I'm sure arenas across Europe, across all 32 teams, they're not going to be the same without fans. European nights are European nights. Like, this is the competition that if you're a big team, you want to win. More than, I wouldn't say more than the league, but definitely more than cups like the FA Cup, for example, in England. You want to win this. You want to win the Champions League. Like, that's just the ultimate pinnacle for any club. It's the biggest trophy in club football. It's the biggest trophy in football aside from the FIFA World Cup. So for me, this is the pinnacle for every footballer's career. Liverpool won it 2 years ago. Bayern Munich won it last year. I'm excited to see who's going to follow them. So we're here to preview Champions League Matchday number 1 group. I forgot which group we're in. I think we're in Group D. But you know what? That's none of our concern. We're in some group in the Champions League. It doesn't really matter the letter. But we're in some group with Ajax. We're going to play them on Matchday number 1. Let's get into it. Now, Ajax Amsterdam, for those of you who don't know, one of the biggest clubs in the Netherlands. In fact, I would say arguably the biggest club. PSV fans might disagree, but I would say arguably the biggest club in Netherlands. They've got 34 top flight titles to their name, so 34 Eredivisie titles, 19 Dutch Cups, but they're not really known. I mean, they're known for local dominance, obviously, but they're known for a couple of other things as well. One of them being their European success. They've won 4 Champions League titles. They won 3 back-to-back, 1971, 72, and 73. And then they also won in 1995. So they also won the UEFA Cup, which is obviously now the Europa League, in 1991-92. And, so they've got a rich history as a European club. You always count them amongst the European elites when you say, clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, AC Milan, Liverpool, teams like that. So you always kind of associate them in that same group. Fun fact, just like Liverpool, they are one of the few clubs who are allowed to retain the original trophy. For example, earlier, now the criteria is you need to win 5 titles to be allowed to retain that trophy. Previously, it used to be 3. So after 1973, they earned the right to keep the European Cup, which is, again, just like Liverpool, just like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and AC Milan as well. Again, they can also wear the multiple winners badge in the Champions League when they play on their jerseys. So that's another thing. Just to let you know that they're a special club. They're a club that has achieved a lot on the European stage. More importantly, the way they've achieved it, they've stuck to their principles. This was obviously, Ajax back in the 70s was the core of the Dutch team that reached the World Cup finals in 74 and 78. And, they played total football. They were known for that. A lot of the Dutch team back then came from Ajax. And a lot of players, even till today, they're known, they start their careers at Ajax. There are a few exceptions, Virgil van Dijk, for example. But most Dutch players that they tend to start from Ajax. And, they every few years, they come across this group of players who are amazing, take the world by storm, and then they make their move to bigger clubs. Case in point, the side that reached the semi-finals of the Champions League 2 years ago, lost to Tottenham with literally the last kick of the game. Unfortunate for them, they would have played Liverpool in Madrid back in 2019, but Tottenham's Lucas Moura spoiled the party for them. But a lot of those players have, found their way to bigger clubs. Um, for example, you've got Matthijs de Ligt who moved to Juventus, Frankie de Jong moved to Barcelona, Hakim Ziyech to Chelsea, and most recently Donny van de Beek to Manchester United. So the side that is there right now, nowhere near the strength of that side that reached the Champions League semis 2 years ago. They currently sit second in the Eredivisie, 1 point behind PSV Eindhoven, 4 wins, 1 loss, which was an unfortunate 1-0 to Groningen. Can't say an undeserved loss because Groningen did actually play well in that game, but it was an unfortunate loss for them. Otherwise, they would have been first if they had drawn or won the game, depending on goal difference or whatever. But they did manage to keep hold of some key players. Dusan Tadic, for example, most of you might remember. He had a spell at Southampton. Wasn't that great at Southampton, but Ajax has just unleashed him. So Dusan Tadic is one of those guys. The wing backs, the full backs, however you want to call them. Nicolas Tagliafico, Argentina international, young guy, was linked to Chelsea this past summer before they got Ben Chilwell. Was linked to Leicester subsequently before they got Timothy Castagne. And Nusayr Mazraoui, Moroccan right back, did really well 2 years back. Form has fallen off a little bit since then, but it is what it is. Last season, they did okay in the Champions League, but this season they're looking to do a lot better. Davy Klaassen is back, so he was back. He was back to Ajax, where he started his career. Didn't really pan out as well as people thought. Was at Werder Bremen for some time before making the move to Ajax. David Neres missed a lot of last season through a knee injury. Missed more than half of last season. Missed I think 31 games last season. So he's back from injury. He will be a key player this season. But one of the things with Ajax has obviously been their youth academy, their youth products, and they're very good at talent spotting. They a lot of youngsters from Brazil, for example, end up there. David Neres is a good example, but one youngster that we should be keeping an eye out for, Anthony Santos, brilliant player, and he's a promising youngster to watch out for. If he continues on this track, then there is a chance he might make a big move in a couple of years. But he started off his career well in the Dutch league. Tactically, Erik Ten Hag, he's their coach. Some of you might remember him from Bayern Munich. He was a reserves manager when Pep Guardiola was there. So a lot of Erik Ten Hag's football is influenced by Guardiola and the way he plays. But there are key differences. Now, Ajax tend to line up in a 4-3-3, but they can switch to a 4-2-3-1, and it's very interchangeable throughout the game. They tend to change a lot between the two formations, depending on who's playing or who's on the pitch. Their last game was a 5-1 win against Heerenveen. So they started out the season, the first 4 games, they played 4-3-3. But the last game, they started out playing a 4-2-3-1, especially since Davy Klaassen was back. He was inserted into the midfield with Ryan Gravenberch. And both of them, anchored that midfield to a 5-1 win. A lot of those players in the 5-1 win, some of them were rested, some of them were subbed off early. The Dutch league, unlike the Premier League, uses a 5 subs rule. So they do have the ability to rest more players, which might be an advantage to them as well. And they have rested a few key players. Lineups, like I said, a few key players have been rested. So Andre Onana is going to be in goal. Very, very good keeper. Very good with his feet as well. He's a very good keeper, and I'm surprised no big clubs have gone for him really, especially clubs like Chelsea, who went for Edouard Mendy instead. But I feel like Onana might have been a better fit for them. He's a proven keeper, proven in the Champions League as well. I feel like it's just a matter of time before he earns that big move. There's a dearth of keepers in the market, and Onana would be a very, very good buy. At centre-back, we've got Daley Blind, who's, again, most of you guys might remember, played for Manchester United in the Premier League. Daley Blind at centre-back, and before he used to partner with Matthijs de Ligt, but now, obviously, since de Ligt is in Juventus, that's kind of a logistical impossibility. So he is partnering up with Per Schuurs, Dutch centre-back. Good, but not as good as Matthijs de Ligt. At right-back, we've got Nusayr Mazraoui. At left back, we've got Nicolas Tagliafico. So both love going forward, very attacking fullbacks. In midfield, they have a ton of options. I personally expect Edson Alvarez to start. The Mexican is a centre back by trade. That's his best position, but he can play right back and defensive midfielder, and he was rested for the game against Herenveen, and he has started a few games this season. So early on, I think Edson Alvarez is likely to start the game against Liverpool, provides a little bit of defensive cover in midfield as well, can slot in as the third centre-back, which helps out Mazraoui and Tagliafico to go forward. And obviously, that's a key feature of how Ajax play, because previously Frankie de Jong used to play that role at the base of midfield, and he used to slot in sometimes as the third centre-back when he used to be at the club. But, Edson Alvarez can do that without any issue because he is a centre-back by trade. In midfield, you've got Gravenberch and Davy Klaassen who started the last game, but a lot of different players have been used. Quincy Promes has played in central midfield. Mohamed Kudus, the Ghanaian midfielder, is also there. And he can also play as a central midfielder. I personally expect Mohamed Kudus to start with Davy Klaassen. Depending on how the game goes, I would expect Gravenberch or Quincy Promes to come on, especially if Liverpool take a good lead. They need a goal. I think I would expect Quincy Promes to come on. Maybe the formation changes to a 4-2-3-1. So, that's something to keep our eye out for. Now, interestingly, what they do play, I'm very interested up front, what Ajax do up front. So they've got a couple of options, and this is kind of a weird one. So on the wings, I would expect Dusan Tadic to start out on the left and David Neres to start out on the right, but I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Santos gets a start as well. So I wouldn't be surprised by that. But what I will say is, up front, they've tended to start with Zakaria Labiad. Last game, they started with Lassina Traore, but he's not a regular starter for them. I feel like Labiad was rested for this game. Labiad is primarily an attacking midfielder, so him being played up front raises the possibility of him being somewhat like a false nine. It also allows Davy Klaassen to go up front, to make those late runs into the box, sometimes even act as a second striker, which is again something that Quincy Promes can also do. So if Labiad starts, I would definitely expect Klaassen or Promes to start the game, or maybe even both. I can't be sure. But this is similar to what Casper Dolberg used to do with Donny van de Beek. So, I mean, he stuck to his principles, Erik Ten Hag, different players, but same principles. David Neres, Dusan Tadic, very, very creative players on the wing, but they can also finish. They've got a goal about them. Tadic has a good long shot as well. Neres, he's a Brazilian international, not a regular, but he's an international. He's earned his cap. He's coming back from injury, so maybe a little rusty. So that might be something to look out for. Anthony Santos could start. Very, very good possibility he could start because he's been quite impressive. And, Ajax are not shy of giving their youngsters a chance if they're impressive. So he could very well start, Anthony Santos. Anthony Santos could be on the right and Dusan Tadic on the left. Santos, exciting player, can score goals, can assist. He's got a great career ahead of him if he can stay injury-free and if he can build on what he's done so far. They play good, attractive football, love to press high up the field, typical Ajax team. Midfielders like to go forward. Like I said, previously it used to be Donny van de Beek with Casper Dolberg. Now with Zakaria Labiad playing, I would expect it to be Promes or Klaassen. It kind of works as a false nine, second striker sort of thing. Works well in a 4-2-3-1 as well. And Neres and Tadic, like I mentioned, they can play make and they can score. Persho's probably, I would say, is the biggest weakness for them in the back line because he may not be as good on the ball as De Ligt. And Daley Blind obviously is aging, so he can be caught out at times. And one of the things that does catch Ajax out, and in some ways it's very similar to Liverpool because Ajax, just like Liverpool, press very high. So they have a very high defensive line. So balls over the top, they can be caught out. And especially with Salah, Mane, Firmino, that's a threat that even Ajax will be wary of. So maybe we might see a little bit of a drop in the defensive line. And maybe Ajax don't play as high as they usually do. They also have trouble sometimes when fullbacks overload, which is again a feature that plays to Liverpool's strengths because Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold love to bomb forward, love to go forward, and love to put those through balls in for everyone. Love to put those crosses in. So yeah, that's another weakness that they do have. It arises again as a consequence of the fact that Tagliafico and Mazraoui also love to do it themselves. They love to go forward as well, so sometimes they can be caught out of position. The counter to that obviously is if Edson Alvarez drops in and fills in as the third centre back, so that kind of ensures them a little bit. But again, it's still quite dangerous when you have your opposition wing backs overloading. It kind of creates a very uneven situation, and a situation that can be difficult at times to manage. They're not as dominant this season as they previously were. Even games where they've won this season, they've not won convincingly. In the sense they've not outplayed the opposition to the point where you can clearly say they were the better team. They deserved to win. There was no other winner in this game. I don't know if it's a sluggish start or if it's just a sign of having a weaker team than 2 years before, or maybe it's both. The effect of losing quality internationals like Matthijs de Ligt, Frenkie de Jong, Donny van de Beek even this season. So that can't be understated. But at the same time, it does feel a little bit like a sluggish start as well. Because the sides that they played, most of them at least, they should be beating comfortably. And last game they looked good. I will not lie. Heerenveen, they did look good against Heerenveen. So I will not lie about that. But so going into this game, they've got some momentum. Whether they can build on it is a question. Coming now to the Liverpool side of things, fitness update first. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk is going to be missing the game. Joel Matip will be assessed before the game. I think he should be fit, but I read that he would be assessed before the game. Naby Keita could feature against Ajax. There were rumours that he had COVID-19. Obviously, it wasn't confirmed by the club because it's up to the player. If you guys didn't know, it's up to the player whether they want to confirm or deny or just no news about COVID-19. So Thiago, for example, confirmed it and told the world about it. Tsimikas didn't. So Naby Keita could feature against Ajax. Alisson could be back before the end of the month, which is a good thing because that's far faster than what was anticipated. He's made a lot of big steps according to Klopp and a lot of positive steps. Thiago will be assessed before the game. Obviously, he had an incident with Richarlison, which got Richarlison sent off late on in the game against Everton. So he's had knee issues. Thankfully, nothing serious. He should be fit for the weekend in the Premier League. Whether he's fit for Ajax is a question mark, and he will be assessed before the game. So my predicted lineup for the game tomorrow is quite subject to whether or not people are fit, so I can't really put out a proper predicted lineup. But what I can say definitely is Adrian is starting in goal. Again, not the most confident keeper in the world, not the most confidence-inducing statement in the world, but it is what it is. Adrian is our reserve keeper, and I will back him as long as he plays in a Liverpool shirt. It doesn't mean I'm happy with him, but I will back him. Adrian is going to be starting in goal. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, will start at right back. I don't think Nico Williams is ready for this sort of a test yet. Joel Matip, if he's fit, will start alongside Joe Gomez. The only thing I'm concerned is Andy Robertson. Not concerned in terms of form or something like that, but I don't want him to burn out, and I want him to last the entire season. I don't want him to burn out like he did a little bit towards the end last year. So what I will say is, I wish if Tsimikas is fit, then Tsimikas can start. I wish he starts, because I think European ties, Ajax, I think that's a game that Tsimikas can handle. A player of Tsimikas' quality can handle. I don't know if he's injured. I don't know if he's aggravated a previously existing injury. I will admit, I've tried looking at news. They said the last thing that I know is that he should be fit after the international break, but I don't know. And what I mean by international break is the one that just passed. So I don't know if he's fit. I don't know if there's some other problem, some other issue. But I think if Tsimikas is fit, I would want him to start, but I don't think so. So I'm going to say Andy Robertson's going to start tomorrow. In midfield, I think Jordan Henderson is going to start. Fabinho is going to start. Now, Fabinho will start in midfield if Matip is fit. If he's not fit, I would expect Fabinho to start at centre-back. And I would expect Naby Keita to start the game. So, Fabinho, Wijnaldum, Henderson if Matip is fit. Wijnaldum, Henderson, Keita if Matip is not fit and Fabinho has to go back to centre-back. Up front, I wouldn't be surprised. Sadio Mane, Firmino, Salah. The only other thing I will say is up front, again, I won't be surprised if Diogo Jota or Takumi Minamino starts instead of one of the three. Given how close games are, given how many games we have quickly, one after the other. Now we've got pretty much games once every 3 or 4 days because of the Champions League. So I wouldn't be surprised if Diogo Jota or Minamino get a start either, or maybe even both. I don't know. Either right now against Ajax or in the weekend against where we're playing in the Premier League. I forgot who we're playing. I think West Ham, but I'm not sure. Later on, or maybe later on, they might get a start, because we do have 2 games against Midtjylland. Again, I'm very sorry if I'm butchering that name, but it's just I'm just so used to saying it that way. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jota or Minamino start against them. So maybe Klopp is saving it for later on. But it wouldn't catch me by surprise if Jota starts tomorrow or Minamino starts tomorrow. I don't expect both of them to start. I think one of them, there's a possibility that might happen. But more likely, I think it's just going to be the front three. So Mane, Salah, Firmino. And what I will say is, because the Champions League has 5 subs, that's going to help us out a lot. Because given our injury troubles, we need to rest our key players. We can't risk more injuries. So I won't be surprised if after 70, 75 minutes, if Diogo Jota comes on for Mo Salah or Sadio Mane, or Minamino comes on for Firmino, if Henderson's taken out for Milner, stuff like that. Like, I won't be surprised by those changes because the Champions League has 5 subs and we need to make use of all of them. For sure, given our fitness troubles. We cannot risk any more late injuries in games. Another thing that will play into that, tomorrow's game, we need early goals. And I say goals, not just one. We need at least a solid 2-goal lead by the time it reaches the 70-minute mark. And then we just need to see the game out. That's all we need to do. We need to game manage past 70, but before 70, I would prefer a 2-0 lead or 2-goal lead, or at least, something. It's easier said than done, obviously, because Ajax are a quality team no matter what. Yes, they've lost a lot of key players, but they do have a good team. So it's easier said than done. But I would hope that by 70 minutes we can be at least up by 2 goals. So we can sub some of our key players out, rest them for the Premier League, and for games even further ahead than that. And then we can try and just see the game out. So that's going to be important for us. Easier said than done. Like I said, it's not an easy thing to go to Ajax and play them. Obviously, fans not being there is kind of an advantage. Last I heard, Netherlands was going into lockdown, so it's probably going to be an empty stadium. So that's kind of a good thing. But what I will say is it's very important we get an early lead. And our defense needs to be solid. This is going to be a test for Gomez and Matip. They're going to need to be solid because for the next 6 months, that's the pairing until at least January when we can get someone to back them up. But Matip and Gomez need to be solid. If Matip's not playing, then Fabinho and Gomez, whatever it is, whoever the back two are or the centre backs are, they need to be absolutely solid. There's just no question about it. What I will say is, as for the game, I think, generally when we look at the group itself, Ajax, Atalanta, Midtjylland, Liverpool, it's like in the last episode we had Vijay Bharadwaj, who's a Bayern fan, and he called it a hipster group, which I think describes it perfectly because it's just going to be entertaining football. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be attacking. It's going to appeal to the younger audience, I guess. Maybe not the football puristas, but it's going to appeal to the younger audience. It's attractive. It's going to be a very good game no matter what. Ajax are going to look to go for it because they know we're without our best defender. They're going to look to go for it. They know we play a high line. They've seen Aston Villa and what they've done. I think every team across the world has seen what Aston Villa did to us, and they're going to try and exploit that. But I expect a good game. I expect a tight game. I think there's going to be some bedding in problems for Liverpool, at least as far as their defense goes. If Matip and Gomez play, there's going to be some few issues initially, and they're going to have to deal with that. But I would say we'll come out of it with a 2-1. I think it's going to be close. I think, as much as I say I'm hoping for a solid 2-goal lead and stuff like that, I don't believe we can do it right now, given given how we're playing, defensively at least. So I say a 2-1 win for us. I think I would expect Salah to score the form that he is in. And I kind of want Henderson to score, not just because of what happened in the derby, but because he's a captain. It's the Champions League. You kind of want him to score, get things going. But that's been the preview to the Ajax game. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I enjoyed researching and doing this piece as well. It's fun to research European teams because you don't watch them that often, so it's fun to research them and watch highlights and watch videos and how they play and stuff like that. So it's taken a little bit of preparation for this episode, probably more than what I would do otherwise. But like I said, it's been fun. So that's my preview to Ajax Amsterdam, and that's my little rant about referees as well. It had to be done. I'm sorry, I'm still pissed off. But that brings me to the end of the episode. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. My name is Seshadri. Goodbye.